Who is Wonder Woman when she gets really nervous? An Amazon worrier? Welcome to Comic Book Editions Volume 207, where the drinks are on me today. Isn't this cool? Mason Ale Works is a craft beer company that has a Wonder Woman can. I had to have this for my collection, not only because of how awesome it looked, which it does, and it even looks more cool in person than the pictures I saw of it online, but it reminded me of the covers of two different Wonder Woman Volume 1 comic books that I have in my collection. Issue number 298 and issue 301. I put those covers up on the screen. Don't you think that this would look so cool having those books displayed next to a can of this? I do. I haven't had the chance to sample the contents of the can yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that. And I feel like I'm books and beer today, like some of my other friends on their YouTube live streams, with my Mason Ale Works Ricochet Wonder Woman beer that I've added into my collection. So excited to have this. Wasn't the easiest thing for me to find, but it paid off because it's here now, and I love it so much. I thought this would be a fun way to kick off today's Comic Book Editions Volume 207 video. Welcome again to it. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, I hope you'll take this opportunity to do so. The algorithm loves it when you give this video a thumbs up, a heart, a like, and I love reading your comments, which I'll ask for at the end of today's video. So today I have some comic books to show, and I want to give you an update on how my Burger King toy quest has gone that I've talked about previously, including on Fanboys Live in the Retro Review. But getting into the comic books, I want to show you some Wonder Woman incentive covers. So last month's issue, number 11, had a 1 in 25 incentive variant that was done by Jeff Spokes, and I like the little golden age feel that this cover has. I wish that I would have liked the story a little bit better. So last month's issue and this month's issue, and I believe next month's as well, are all Absolute Power tie-ins. So that's the current big crossover that's going on in DC. And it kind of, I didn't like the story. I just didn't. I thought it took the momentum away from what Tom King was writing, although he did write this issue as well, but it took the momentum away from what was going on with his regular ongoing series for another forced tie-in. I understand tie-ins if they make sense. This just felt forced, which obviously it is. There were some good covers in last month's batch to choose from, including this incentive one. So I don't regret picking this up, just didn't enjoy the story nearly as much as I wish I would have, or as some of the previous issues in this Volume 6 run. That takes us to the 1 in 25 incentive cover for the current issue, number 12, that was just released last week. Jorge Fornes did the cover art for this. I'm just kind of okay with this. This issue, another Absolute Power tie-in, I liked a little bit better than issue 11. This has Wonder Woman and Robin trying to get Amanda Waller's location from Captain Boomerang. And they alternate they switch back and forth between their different methods, between love and violence, essentially, or scaring him into giving it up, to try to get the information that they need. And at one point, it was a little funny at one point, though. Robin's like, how come he seems to get hurt more when we're using your tactics of love than when we're using my tactics? Which his tactics were always involved him hanging upside down over some dangerous threat. So I like this one a little bit better, but I'm going to be happy when this forced tie-in is done and we can get back to the story that we were telling before then. Wonder Woman Volume 1, issue number 258. I already had this in my collection, and I wanted another copy. Let me tell you why. It's my goal to get this signed by Paul Kuperberg. And sometimes when you look up this issue, you see Paul Kuperberg listed as the writer, and sometimes you don't. If you don't see him, you usually see Paul Levitz listed. It's my understanding that Paul Levitz came up with the concept and told this to Paul Kuperberg with his permission to write the story, which he did. So essentially, there's a man who is at the West Point Military Academy for the graduation ceremonies, and his son was kicked out of West Point earlier that year. And we find out in the course of the story that that his son took his own life for the shame and the failure of not graduating, and the dad kind of hijacks a plane and is going to explode it into a nuclear plant. So pretty heavy stuff there, but it's just a one-issue self-contained story in one issue from 1979. This Jose Delbo cover I think is amazing. Jose Delbo is my all-time favorite artist. Fortunately, we lost him earlier this year. I'm lucky to own some original artwork of his, but I think this cover is just amazing. And I have memories of this cover as a young childhood collector, seeing this for the first time in a town that we would, because I grew up in a very small town, but in a town that we would often go to get groceries at. They had a pharmacy, and I think that's where I saw the cover first, but I didn't buy it there because the people who worked at the pharmacy would use the comic book covers to do their math on. They'd do it really tiny, but they'd still write and do their math on the front of the comic book covers. And I never wanted them or to buy any from them because they were written on. I'm sure I found this probably the same day at a different location in that town, probably at a grocery store more than likely. And I hadn't reread this issue in quite some time. It was a good one-issue read. The Jose Delbo artwork inside is just as fantastic as I remember. There's one page that only has like one word balloon in the entire page, and the rest is Wonder Woman in action. I love that. I even looked online to see if the original art for that was available anywhere, and I didn't really find it. I didn't do too extensive of a search, but in the little bit that I did, I didn't see it, which was maybe for the better for my wallet that I didn't see it because it was pretty awesome. Jose Delbo was Wonder Woman's artist for about 5 consecutive years or so. So he was a longtime artist for her and was the current artist at the time that I remember owning Wonder Woman comics for the first time in my life. So that will always hold a sentimental place with me. Here's one that I picked up on Instagram. Thank you to my friend Chad, Barbarian Kung Fu. He had this and was selling it on his Instagram selling page. It's Wonder Woman 77 meets the Bionic Woman #1. This is a Mike McCone variant that was done as a convention exclusive. There were only 100 copies of this made. This is the blue foil. So they did 100 copies of it in blue foil, 100 copies of the exact same cover, but just instead of blue foil, it's red foil, and 100 copies of it, same cover, but it's silver foil. Then they did 500 copies that is all gold foil. I have one of the gold foil covers of that. This book came out in 2017. And I thought that having the gold one would probably satisfy my need, to represent, because it's all the same artwork. It's just the foil cover is different. But when this was offered on Instagram for such a great price, I couldn't pass this up, and I'm so glad that I didn't. You might remember in my Comic Book Editions Volume 180 video, one of my friends, as a Christmas gift, gave me the trade paperback of Wonder Woman 77 Meets the Bionic Woman, and I've reread that recently, and it was just fun. There's so many Easter eggs devoted to the TV show, both TV shows, I should add, as a matter of fact. This is a tough series to collect because there's still some variant covers that came out a while after issue 1 was released as convention exclusives. There's one by J-Bone that I can't find this cover anywhere. I think it just can't find it anywhere. The book literally is a ghost. You never see it on eBay. I have hunted after it unsuccessfully and probably will never own it. I've reached out to J-Bone. He just has one copy left for his own personal collection. So sadly, that's one I probably won't end up getting. And I don't want to talk about that too much because that makes me want to boo-hoo. Wonder Womans that I don't have make me want to boo-hoo. It is a great Mike McCone cover, though. Fun series, especially if you watch the Wonder Woman TV show and or the Bionic Woman TV show. Lots of Easter eggs in there, as I mentioned before. Okay. How about jumping away from Wonder Woman for a second? Batgirl, whose baby are you? Batgirl Omnibus Volume 2, you're my baby now. This came out in 2019. This collects the Batgirl stories from Batman Families, issues 12 through 20, Detective Comics, issues 481 through 499, 501 and 502, 505 and 506, 508 through 510, and 512 through 519. We're talking 500 plus pages in this. It was in Comic Book Editions Volume 203 that I impulsively picked up because it was such a great price, the Batgirl Omnibus Volume 1. And at that time I said, you know, I'll probably won't be able to get Volume 2 because it's out of print and the prices for it are just so high. By a fluke, I started watching one online on eBay, and I ended up getting this, even with taxes and shipping, for just under what the original cover price was, and it's still factory sealed. So I took that as a huge win. I certainly didn't know if I'd ever get this omnibus, let alone get this so quickly after I got the first one. And I'm looking forward to sitting down and really enjoying all these Barbara Gordon stories. I won't call it a complete collection of her Bronze Age stories, so to speak, because there's probably some stuff that's missing. But overall, it's got the meat and potatoes in there. I thought that there were a lot of these stories that I had, at least in Volume 2, that I had pretty much almost every story that was collected in here. And when I started digging a little bit deeper, I didn't. Like, there's also like a Batgirl special that's also included in this omnibus too. Like Batgirl: The Last Adventure, that's supposed to be her story of her last crime fight before the Killing Joke. So, and I've never read that before. But I'm going to now, and I'm excited to have this in the collection. I'd like to be able to do this sometime with the Silver Age Supergirl omnibuses that they have. They have 2 volumes of that. This omnibus, if I didn't mention it, was originally released in 2019. Like I said, it's gone out of print, and sometimes when they go out of print, the prices just skyrocket on those things. Luckily for me, I was able to get this, and so I did. And I did make a smart choice by picking up that first Volume 1 omnibus, even then not knowing if I'd end up with Volume 2. And I do want to say, when it comes to that Comic Book Editions Volume 203 video, view-wise, that video did so well for me. So much better than most of my videos usually have done. And if you watched that video, thank you so much for watching that and supporting that and getting me some high views on that. It was 200 plus views on that, which I normally don't get on one of my regular videos. On Fanboys Live and the Retro Review, which incidentally will have another episode coming up this Sunday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central, on my YouTube channel, the greatest DC Comics show on YouTube, with Signature King and Comic Food 2814. But in the past, and in a previous Comic Book Editions video, I started talking about the cool toys that Burger King has, and I decided I wanted to get the full run. And I've shown this before. This was the very first one they had. It was a brooding Batman. And at the same time, I think that he was released, they did his Superman as well. And these toys are much bigger than I normally would expect to find in like a children's toy meal. But I've been consuming the fried food like crazy from Burger King in hopes of getting all of them. And there's 8 in total. There's my favorite. There's Wonder Woman. And she came out at the same time that Flash was released. And some folks have asked me, are you going to open these? The plan is to open them. At least that's the plan right now. We have a John Stewart Green Lantern. He came out the same week as Harley Quinn. And then in the final weeks, and I actually had to go out of town to find this, I did get the Supergirl, which after Wonder Woman is the one that I wanted the most. I did get that, and then the very last one that I didn't have was Joker. I don't know why they didn't release Joker and Harley Quinn in the same week. I think that would have made more sense, but I'm not in charge of that. So I did end up with a full set collection of these Burger King toys from their Happy Meals, which has made me happy. What do you think about the comic books, etc. that I shared in today's video? You up for a brew sometime? A Mason Ale Works Wonder Woman brew? We can talk about all of this and more in the comment section below, as your comments are welcomed, encouraged, and appreciated. My back issue of the week YouTube short dropped yesterday, so check that out. Green Lantern. I think it's Green Lantern Volume 4, Issue 1. 60 seconds talking about that comic book with an amazing variant cover that I own by Alex Ross. Fanboys Live and the Retro Review that I mentioned coming up again this Sunday, and another Comic Book Editions video next week as we put a wrap to this Comic Book Editions Volume 207 video. Thanks for joining me today. Have a happy, healthy, successful, wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Take care. and a right... These cans are so hard to hold up and I keep screwing up.